Welcome, everybody, to the Dynasty Pros Superflex Rookie Mock Draft Show. I'm here with Cody Folden. Cody, how are you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. I'm excited for the show.
Yeah,
How are
I
you
am
doing?
very excited. I'm stoked, man. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a 2-round Superflex Rookie Mock. The first one we got on Dynasty Pros video post NFL Draft. Basically, Cody and I are going to be taking turns going back and forth between picks, and I'm excited for it. So let's get into it, and we're going to have Cody start us off with 1-1. This is the surprise of the draft, I'm sure, Cody. So let's get going.
Yeah, I could go surprise, but I'm going to go chalk. I'm going to go Bijan Robinson like everyone else probably will, and they probably should because we all know. Or what do we all know? It's we can always find another quarterback, but even in Superflex, it's a little bit easier to find a quarterback than a good running back, and I think he's going to be a good running back. Those are way more valuable than a rookie quarterback at this point.
Yeah, I think, everyone's been talking about Bijan's greatness all summer. We don't need to hit it on the head too much. I think what's so great about Bijan is just it's his safeness and the insulated value. Yep. I think you look at a player that this dude could, I almost don't even want to say get hurt tomorrow, but this dude could get hurt tomorrow and be a top 12 player probably come startups next offseason because people are just, look at Breece Hall, right? Breece Hall is still going as a second-round pick in startups, and he was less hyped than Bijan Robinson was, right? So I will get going from pick number 2. I think this is where it's time for the quarterbacks in a Superflex rookie mock draft. And the change for me with the NFL draft is coming, and I am kicking up Anthony Richardson to pick number 2 overall in my Superflex rankings. I just find it to be – I just think his upside is so much greater than these other 2 quarterbacks that I think I'm just going to shoot for the pinnacle of what he could be, right? I think AR has that Jalen Hurts season in him. And as much as I love the other 2 quarterbacks, I think their way to a top fantasy season has to come with a little more passing efficiency. Not to be too basic with the answer, but it's easier to be a good fantasy quarterback than a good real life quarterback. And I think Anthony Richardson fits that mold. So
that's 3, exactly what I was going to bring up, because it was like you can be a mediocre regular season quarterback and be very good at fantasy. So 100%. It was just more along. Yeah, I like that pick. So with the 3rd pick, I'm going to go with one of those other guys that is going to need a passing efficiency, but it's going to be Bryce Young for me. I think he's still my QB1 of the draft. I would take him over Anthony Richardson, but I'm in so many drafts that I try to diversify between some of them. So I've taken AR, I've taken Bryce Young, I've taken Stroud. So just more of a, I like Bryce Young and the weapons that he's going to have this year. I think they picked up a nice weapon in Jonathan Mingo too, which should go here sooner than later. So,
yeah, I think Bryce Young is I do think it really depends on team build between him and AR. It's like if you're going upside, I'm taking Anthony Richardson. And if I'm going safety and just Bryce Young is going to be a very good quarterback in the NFL. And I'm not too concerned about that. So pick number 4, I'm on the board. I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm taking the 3rd QB, and I'm taking CJ Stroud. I know a lot of people love CJ Stroud, and there are some CJ Stroud truthers who probably still have him as the number 2 player in this draft behind Bijan. And look, I'm all for that. I do think all 3 of these quarterbacks could be argued in any order depending on what you are arguing for, right? What worries me is that I don't know how many good offensive weapons are on that Texans team. Now, they could add to it, but I just feel like AR and Young are better picks than Stroud, but that's really pulling hairs. This is the number 4 pick in this rookie draft. You're getting a great QB for your dynasty team, and QBs are gold. So I am very stoked to take CJ Stroud at pick 4. And I do really think this is one of those situations where if you can gain a very solid asset, I would be happy to move from 2 to 4, depending on what it is. Just, if I can slide from AR to CJ Stroud and pick up a couple seconds, something like that, I think I'd be happy to. What are your thoughts on Stroud, Cody?
For sure. I think, I think we're not giving his pass catchers enough of the benefit of the doubt. I mean, Dalton Schultz will be good. Robert Woods is there. He's going to be a security blanket. And I mean, all the reports coming out now that Stroud wanted Tank Dell. And I mean, I've written my rookie spotlight on Tank Dell. You know how much I love that guy. So he's going to be good as well. So, I mean, as they're not as well-rounded as someone like DJ Charks and Adam Thielen and Hayden Hursts and stuff, but I still think they might be a little bit better than what we think.
Yeah, and don't confuse my hate of the Texans' weapons for a love of the Panthers' weapons, because I do not love the Panthers' weapons either. But I mean, I think I'm happy with all of them.
The biggest thing with Stroud is, I mean, like you said, if I could move down from 2 to 4 and pick up some of those picks, I would, because I might have a Justin Herbert as well, so I don't need him to be my starting quarterback, but I have a really good another flex option with CJ Stroud and maybe those second-round picks in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, the QB choice is like, if I have a number 1 QB on my roster, someone between, Mahomes to Lamar, maybe even as low as Dak. I might even go as low as Dak. I think I'm going Richardson for that upside. But if you're taking over a team, you have 1, 2, and you have no one on your team, I do think Bryce Young is the pick. If you have no one, because you can't miss out on that pick. That wraps up the 1 through 4. We have Bijan, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. Those are the top 4 picks and the top 3 quarterbacks. So pick 5, Cody, you are on the clock.
Pick 5, I'm taking Jackson Smith and Jigba. And it's really because, I mean, he got a great landing spot, in my opinion. He might be, wide receiver 3 at the start of the year, but Tyler Lockett is getting up there. And I think he can take over that role pretty easily. And he's a smooth route runner. So he's going to demand a lot of coverage over the middle, which will open up DK. It's a perfect situation. He's in a great spot with great weapons and a QB that doesn't make that many mistakes in Geno Smith. Somehow, now we talked about Geno Smith as not making mistakes when he was with the New York Giants. That's all he did. But, yeah, I like JSN in this spot. I would love to have him at 5.
I really do think that people are overthinking the landing spot here. Like, I mean, he's 1 injury away from being an absolute stud. And let's not forget that DK and Lockett have both been top 15, 20 guys, like, year after year after year, right? Like, this isn't just a randomness. Like, Seattle's produced top wide receivers. And, I think JSN, like, it might not be year 1. He might not be my number 1 redraft rookie wide receiver, but dynasty-wise, he's still the number 1 wideout in this class, just because that short area quickness, man, that dude can get open. And he also, I was watching some film today, actually, and like what I love about JSN is that he recognizes that he is a little smaller and he comes back to get the ball.
Yep.
He comes back to get it, right? And like, it seems simple, but like compared to some other wide receivers who just, it's just like that football intelligence. I think it's something that JSN shows and why it's just like this dude's going to succeed
exactly
in the NFL.
I mean, it does say, I mean, he's been around so many pro wide receivers already, and one's still not drafted. But I mean, when Olave and Wilson, I'm going to take their benefit of the doubt. I've said it on other shows, right? It's like, if they say this guy's better than them, I'm going to take their word for it. And, what are wide receivers? They're divas. And if those divas say that this guy's better than them, he's probably better than them.
No, I am with you 100%. It's like, I feel the same way about sometimes with dynasty rookie rankings. It's like, let's not get too stuck in the mud on what your basing your own opinion on because you watched that one highlight video 5 months ago and you're just like, Hakeem Butler is my guy. I love Hakeem Butler. You're just like, let's not forget that these NFL scouts, as much as we like to make fun and tease them, they are getting paid millions of dollars to do this as their job, and draft capital needs to be taken into account. It is not the only marker for success, but we need to keep it in our minds when drafting these players, because as much as you like that guy that went in the 5th round, that is a red flag when it comes to being a successful dynasty asset. Okay, on to pick 6. For me, this is the end of the tier. I think pick 6 is the end of my 6 players. And just like I said, if I was at pick 2 and I want a quarterback, I'm happy to trade to pick 4. If I'm at pick 2 and I don't really care what I get, I'm happy to trade down to pick 6. And at pick 6, I'm taking Jahmyr Gibbs. I think for me personally, in my rankings, I have him at 5. It is a coin flip between him and JSN. I love them both. It's just hard to ignore first-round draft capital from a running back, especially these days. Like, of all the hate the running backs get, the fact that we had 2 running backs taken in the 1st round is just absolutely mind-boggling to me, right? I think we were all kind of blown away when Gibbs went during the draft. Like, we all knew Bijan was getting picked, and we were just kind of waiting, like, are they trading up for him? Is he going to fall? Whatever, in the 1st round. And then the Lions took Gibbs, and everyone was like, no, like, they have DeAndre Swift. They have David Montgomery. Like, why would you do this to us? And then about, 5 minutes later, everyone was like, oh, they're trading Swift, aren't they? Yeah. And now we have a 1st-round running back, and I'm just going to take that all day, man. Like, I am not scared about the whole under 200-pound running backs can't be productive. Like, the dude was 199 pounds. Let's, had he just, not pooped, he would have been 200. Let's take it down a notch on the hate on his weight. The dude is a freak athlete, and he's going to touch the ball a lot, especially in a PPR format, which, most leagues these days are PPR or half PPR, depending on what you're playing in. Like, you don't spend 112 on a running back unless you want to give that dude the ball.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, on to pick 7.
Like you said too, it is a coin flip between JSN and Gibbs, but at number 7, this might be the surprise so far, but it's purely based on landing spot. I'm taking Jordan Addison here, and that's just because he's gonna be the wide receiver 2 on the Minnesota Vikings, and I mean, if you're the number 2 to Justin Jefferson, you're gonna produce because Jefferson's getting doubled. And yeah, Addison might be a little small, but I've seen in college at USC and in Pittsburgh when he had inferior quarterbacks to Kirk Cousins and he can dominate one-on-one coverage. Yes, corners in the NFL are different, but I think he figures it out because he's got one of the best to learn from. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think he's just going to get easy coverage too. Like, I don't think he's getting, he's not getting safety shaded his way. He's not getting linebackers buzzed out in front of him with Hawkinson there. He's going to get a lot of one-on matchups against the 2nd best corner on that other team, not the 1st best. And he, exactly like what you said, I think, I think people are losing a little faith in him because his numbers went down this year from when he had Pickett, or his size, or his speed wasn't as fast as everyone wanted, or his weight, or his height, or it's just like, let's not overthink this, man. The dude's a very good receiver. He produced in 2 separate spots in college, and he's going to produce in a 3rd one in the NFL, and he's going to be a great wide receiver too. I think that's the key, right? Don't have your expectation be that this guy's going to come out and be Devonta Smith right away. Like, he's not the prospect that Devonta Smith was. Smith won the freaking Heisman, man. Like, this dude was an amazing player. But Addison's a very good wide receiver, and I'm all on board with Addison there. If you're looking wideout, I think he's a guy I'm happy to end up with once you're past 6 in this draft.
And the last thing I'll say is at the draft, a lot of people didn't like him saying, let's go get that money. I think that's a good enough. That's the cockiness I want in a wide receiver, right?
I
Because
yeah.
like after the fifth round, like if you pick up your fifth round option, you're getting that extension. That's your money. And if we picked up your fifth year extension and gave you the extension, you earned it. That means you're good. That's what I want in my wide receivers drafted that high, right? So I'm quite all right with that.
I'm with you, man. I don't really care about a wide receiver being a little cocky. Like
Exactly.
I don't want my blocking tight end being cocky, but I want I don't want Darnell Washington, the sixth lineman, which he is keyed himself. But dude, you're a wide receiver, man. You want the ball. I want a wide receiver to want the ball. Like it just
Exactly.
means you believe in yourself, and I'm totally cool with it. So for pick 8 in this draft, I actually would have taken this guy at 7. Cody and I were talking earlier. We're doing tight end premium for this draft, but I have even started to convince myself that in a non-tight end premium, I'm having this guy up there, and that is Dalton Kincaid at pick 8 for us right now. I think the more I've started to think about it, it's that I would love for Kincaid to go out there this year and have a monster season, as we all would. But I think the story you need to tell yourself for Dalton Kincaid is that Stephon Diggs is aging out. He has a couple years left. Diggs is an amazing wide receiver. 50% of Stephon Diggs is probably still a top 20 receiver in this league as how good he is. But maybe, and just maybe, Kincaid becomes the number 1 target in that offense once Diggs ages out. And I think that's why he's starting to be worth the shot at this point in the draft, right? If we knew we were getting a Travis Kelce, Brock Bowers next year, those guys are going to go very high in the draft. And that's why, this is pick 8. I'm not saying you have to spend one of those primo picks, but I just believe the upside is there. And if he can slot in as the number 2 target for a couple years, transition over to the number 1 target, let's say 3 years from now, Kincaid could be the steal of this draft. You could be looking at someone even better than Hawkinson, maybe not talent-wise, but in that offense, he totally could be. And everyone who's held on to Hawkinson for all those years, as soon as he got to Minnesota, they looked at themselves and they were like, that is 100% who I thought I was drafting when he was on the Lions. And Kincaid just might be in that landing spot right away.
For sure.
So,
and yeah, I mean, that's a great pick for 8 in the Superflex. And like you said, I mean, we're in pick 8 now. So that means it's the better teams in your draft too, or who finished better in the league last year. So, I mean, they probably had a decent tight end, or maybe that's what is holding them back. So, of course, they're going to take a tight end, and they might have one that's still aging out, but you don't need to start Kincaid right away either. You're trying to find that depth, so when your team starts aging out, then you have a way to do it. And I think that's the same thing with this next pick in Quentin Johnston, because, Keenan Allen's getting up there in age, and Mike Williams is always injury prone, so QJ is going to get his touches, and they like big receivers at the Chargers. So I think it was a great pick for them.
Yeah, I think QJ is a classic. He's a ceiling play, right? I think Addison is the safe play. QJ is the ceiling play if you're drafting out of these spots, and these are the wide receivers you're looking at, right? I remember we did a video like a week ago with JT and dream landing spot Quentin Johnson. I said the Chargers, and it was just like, dude, who better to throw Quentin Johnson the ball than Herbert slinging it to him 50 yards down the field? So you don't have to tell yourself that long of a story that Johnson slides into the Mike Williams role, or Keenan Allen ages out. They have 2 guys on the outside, and it's just that offense is going to score some points, especially with Kellen Moore there, that I'm stoked for him. I mean, he has some things that bumped him down, right? Yep. 3-4 months ago, we thought QJ might go where JSN's going. We thought he might be that guy, right? But, people have started to notice some things that they didn't love, which is why he slid a bit. But late first round, like you said, if you made the playoffs last year and you have pick 9, you don't necessarily need a guy with upside that can maybe take you over that hump to win the championship. So
exactly.
So pick 10, I'm going to go with Zay Flowers. And I just think I think the landing spot is good. I think it could have been better. but I think I am convinced that Monken is going to change that Baltimore offense. And I just think that Flowers has the chance to be the wide receiver one on that team because we don't know who it is. Odell's coming in. He's going to want to produce, but we haven't seen him stay healthy. Bateman gets all the love. And I love Bateman, man. I've been a Bateman defender for a couple years now.
Same.
But at some point, show it to me. Bateman's job is not safe with Zay Flowers. If Zay Flowers balls out, he is 100% taking over Bateman as the number one on that team. Mark Andrews is the issue that everyone's thinking, but that's where I think the higher pass rate with the Todd Monken offense really might come in as something to Zay Flowers' benefit. But there's downsides. I get it, man. Like, is he just a better Devin Duvernay? That's the worry when you're taking this guy. That's in my mind is like, obviously he's a higher prospect than Duvernay, but is that how they're going to use him? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on Flowers real quick before we move on?
Oh, I think at number 10, it's a smash pick because for some of the reasons you said, but they only gave Odell a 1-year deal. So, I mean, if they see big strides in Flowers, why would you give him another deal when you have a rookie with a 5-year extension on there? And then what if Bateman also balls out? Now you have two guys on rookie deals and you can put your money somewhere else, which, I mean, you already paid Lamar Jackson too. So I think you'd be sitting really good with that. And I actually like that landing spot for him. I think him and Lamar is going to be very, very nice.
Yeah, I think he could slide kind of into how they used Hollywood, but he'll probably get some shorter routes as well to maybe break some. He has a bigger body than Hollywood ever did, So
So I think he's a good complement with Bateman, I think. So
yeah,
I think they're going to just let Odell do his thing, and then him and Bateman will just feast in the intermediate and short routes. So
100%. Who we taking at 11, Cody?
Number 11, I am taking Zach Charbonnet. And earlier in the day, actually, I've been trying to trade up to get him in a rookie draft because I'm the Kenneth Walker owner. So I've been trying to trade up, and I want both of them there just for the fact that what if Kenneth Walker gets hurt? I need to hedge my bet. So I'll take the backup as well. The landing spot, look, if he had a better landing spot, he'd probably be in the Gibbs range, JSN range. But there's no denying Charbonnet is behind Kenneth Walker just based off of what Walker's already done. But also, Walker, I think, is just the better player. But I'm still going to take Charbonnet because he can still produce. And with what they did in the draft, they have JSN too. Now they got younger again. And Charbonnet can pass catch a lot better than Kenneth Walker can. So, I mean, he just have more options. Now, Seattle might be doing what the Cowboys should have been doing the last few years with Pollard and Zeke, put them both in the game, because then you can't just be like, hey, Walker's in the game, it's a run. Hey, Pollard's in the game, it's a pass. In that way, if you use both of them on the field, then you have to account for both of them. And I think that will hurt the defense and make them slower.
Yeah, it's so hard, man. We were all so disappointed when Charbonnet went there. It was just like a gut punch to like a million fantasy football nerds on their couches who were just like, gosh, dang it, man. Like, you're kidding me, Pete Carroll. He's such a tough one to rank, man. I got to say, I am one of those guys that I did think he slid down my board a lot. But I think we're getting to this point where it's like if you don't know who to draft and you're questioning it, Charbonnet is a better player than some guys that I'm bumping him behind. And he has better draft capital than some guys I'm bumping him behind. And, I do this a lot when I talk to other people or friends that ask for advice or stuff like that. And it's just like, what's the story you need to tell yourself for Charbonnet to be worth this pick, right? What's the story? And I think the story that I'm trying to tell myself, if I want to believe that Kenneth Walker and Charbonnet can coexist, is look at the Cleveland Browns, not maybe this last year, but the couple years before that with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt.
Exactly.
That is what you're hoping for, is that they can coexist. Of course, it limits both of their upsides. No one's making that argument. But if Charbonnet's a good player and he can catch some passes and get 10 carries, he could be a great pick at the end of the first round, man. You don't always have to aim for RB1 with every pick. Sometimes you have to aim for RB2 or for your flex position. And especially if you're at pick 11, maybe you just need a depth guy. Like, maybe you had, I'm trying to think of a starter that went down late last year, Maybe you had Javonte Williams and you were going to roll into the playoffs and you were stoked, and Javonte went down and you're like, well, at least I got Charbonnet. Like, I'm not totally done. I can lean on some of my other players.
So. Yep, exactly. Yeah, you want your depth options also to get, like, you're mad when your bench is outscoring your starting lineup. Yeah, maybe you didn't start the right players, but at least they're getting points. That's a good thing. So if someone does get hurt, then you have a plug-and-play asset, and I think that's what he could be.
Very true. So for pick 12, I'm going to end off the first round, and I guess you can just nickname me Tight End King, man, because I'm going back to the tight end well with Michael Mayer. I will say pre-draft, Kincaid was my number one, and so I'm happy that he got the draft capital to be the number 1, too. But I love the landing spot for Mayer. I think it's very safe. I think there's no competition for him in that tight end room. I think, between McDaniels and Jimmy G, two guys that both love tight ends, I think Mayer's going to be a good pick. He may take a year or two to really turn into what we want him to be, as most tight ends do. Even the great ones can take a little bit. But I just think if you're sitting at 12 and you don't know who to pick, and especially in a tight end premium league, it's just like, just take the tight end, move on with your life. I think I would love the upside to be something great, but I think worst case scenario, you're looking 2 years down the road and you're like, well, I got Cole Kmet on my team, or I think he's kind of in that range. I think he reminds me of that mold where, Cole Kmet's a great guy to have around. He's not Travis Kelce, but he's a good guy to have there as your tight end 2, or even as your tight end 1 if you're in a rebuilding sense. So what notes do you want to add on Michael Mayer?
He was my tight end 1 coming out of the draft, and I mean, I agree. It's a great landing spot for him, and like you said, there's no competition. So I think, especially at number 12, that's another smash pick in Superflex rookie tight end premium, because five catches for a tight end in premium is you're in good shape. So
we've all seen those games, man. The tight ends get 12 catches, and you're just like, how the hell did TJ Hawkinson just drop freaking 40 on me? And you're just,
that's the beauty of tight end premium, right? It makes any tight end can be the tight end 6 in a week. We know who the top 5 are, and you want those ones to go very high. So if you didn't invest in that, then you can wait. You can keep waiting, and then sometimes, I haven't taken my tight end yet, and Michael Mayer is there, and he's going to be good.
Yeah,
he'll fill that spot for you.
I'm 100% with you.
So
we are done with the first round. I'm going to go back through real quick and just kind of walk through all the picks of the first round to remind everyone watching, and then we're going to move on to the second round. So number 1, we got Bijan Robinson. Number 2, Anthony Richardson. Number 3, Bryce Young. 4, CJ Stroud. 5, Jackson Smith and Jigba. 6, Jahmyr Gibbs. 7, Jordan Addison. 8, Dalton Kincaid. 9, Quentin Johnston. 10, Zay Flowers. 11, Zach Charbonnet. And 12, Michael Mayer. I am stoked not only that we had a great first round, but that I didn't mispronounce a single name going down that list or stumble over any of my words. So to kick off the first pick of the second round, Cody, who are we doing?
I'm going Will Levis, because in Superflex, again, you say, and we all agree, QB is gold. And he could easily be starting in the middle of the year, because I think they're over with Tannehill. We know they're off of Willis. Levis is that guy that now he has a chip on his shoulder since he didn't go round 1, so he's actually going to work. He's not going to have that cockiness that he had, that I think a lot of people got turned away from.
Yeah,
because he's going to work on his game and stuff like that. So I think if I have the pick 2.01 and Will Levis is still on the board, I'm very happy picking him up.
Yeah, I'm with you. He's actually a guy that I actually have him as my 12 currently in my Superflex rankings. And a lot of it is just what you said, man. It's like, I don't necessarily love 10 through 15. I like all the players, but it's really hard for me to convince myself after Zay Flowers for me. So maybe 11. Who do I take at 11 over pick 15, 16, 17? And I think just the QB nature of Levis. And also, like, let's not forget that there actually have been some pretty solid second round quarterbacks like recently, more than people think, right? Like, obviously Jalen Hurts, but even like Derek Carr, right? Like, if Will Levis could have Derek Carr's career, like, that's a slam pick, man. He's going even earlier than there. And just like you said, man, he's going to get a chance, and he's going to get, like, the Titans team could be just good enough, even though I'm a Titans fan, but they could be just good enough to not get Caleb Williams, Drake May, and so they might be stuck with Levis, which I don't love, but I will be rooting for him. So
yeah, and I mean, it's still just a second round pick. So with the value they got him at, you really can't be mad at him, where they took him.
Yeah.
So
I'm with you. So pick 14, I'm going to go Devin Achane. And this is one of the guys that in the draft, we loved his landing spot, right? Everyone blew up. We'd been sitting with all these crappy landing spots for about an hour. And then Devin Achane goes to the Dolphins, and everyone stood up off their couch and was freaking stoked. There are some slight body concerns. He's a little small, but I think he's a great player, and I think he's perfect in that system. I'm not going to overthink this. If you want to take a shot and shoot for the moon on a running back prospect, I think I would take him as early as 11. I think you might not have to take him at 11, but that's about where I'm starting to look at Achane if I want a running back and I want the ceiling play. I think there's some safer prospects, but I think ceiling-wise, Achane is great, and I'd be happy to get him here at the if you're picking early second, your team could potentially blow if it's your own pick. So he's a guy that could maybe you get someone really good out of this pick.
Yeah, and I mean, what was he, a 4th round pick or something? So it wasn't like
it's a 3rd rounder. So
third rounder.
Day 2,
day 2 pick.
Yeah,
like that's nothing to shy away at either. That means they really believed in him, and then that also means that he's going to get a shot. And then returning all of their other running backs that they had last year, we know none of those are it. That's why it's a running back carousel. We want the one that's going to get the 60% share, and that could be Achane.
100%.
And so for pick 15, again, this is tight end premium. I'm taking Sam Laporta for the kind of the same reason that you're taking Achane this high because of landing spot. They took him on day 2. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but Laporta is going to get action. And if they liked him that high, I'm going to ride with him. I mean, to trade TJ Hawkinson was the questionable upside, and now they just got the younger version of him. Maybe not as good of a blocker, but just as good as a receiver, and that's what they're missing in their tight end spot.
Yeah,
and I would argue he's a little bit more athletic than Hawkinson is too, in the aspect of a wide receiver. So he's going to get his chances with Goff and with Hendon Hooker. So,
yeah, I think it's a great pick. I think, just like you were saying, man, tight end premium, scoop up these tight ends in late round 1, early round 2. They're safe. They all have shots to be the starting tight end on their team. And just like you said, man, Laporta is a very athletic player, and that is what you're shooting for when it comes to tight ends in dynasty football, right?
And he had the worst quarterback in Iowa last year, and he still had 60 catches. So.
He still got drafted high.
Exactly.
So pick 16, I'm going to go back to running back, and I'm taking Kendre Miller, who I love Kendre Miller. I have a feeling I am not going to get Kendre Miller on a single one of my teams because he's going to go at 110 in every single draft because someone in your league is going to be a bigger Kendre Miller fan than you are. But with that being said, great landing spot. The sketchiness of Alvin Kamara's position and potential, career with the Saints is obviously what's boosting Miller up. I think my worry with Miller is that he finds himself either in a timeshare with Kamara and Jamal Williams and then him, Or if Kamara's gone, I do still think they gave Jamal Williams just enough money that he might be a nuisance to Miller. But Miller's a great player, and he's young, man. Like, he is very young. So I do think he's going to be productive. It might not be as quick as some people are hoping for, I think, is my worry. But second round pick, mid-second round, with that being said, he's still my RB4. So, like, I'm not that much of a hater. I'm just playing a little devil's advocate to those that have been touting Miller the last couple days.
Yeah, I mean, in the second round, you're really taking the guys that you like. Yeah. And it's like, even if some of the landing spots, I'm going to probably take landing spot over who I liked pre-draft just because of where they went. And Kendre Miller is one of those guys. I didn't like Kendre Miller that much coming out, but now that he went to the Saints, I see that as a good landing spot. So,
yeah.
And in that regard, I mean, that's why I'm taking this guy at 17 as well. I wasn't as high as a lot of people were on this guy, but Jonathan Mingo at pick 17, I think that's a really good pick because, like we were talking with the Houston weapons, I mean, the Panther weapons, Thielen is old. Chark, we still don't know what he is, but we kind of do know what he is. He's injury prone, and so he's not a wide receiver one. But Jonathan Mingo can complement him well. And I think that's why they got him. And I think he could be the big wide receiver that Bryce Young is going to need. And that's the one thing he was actually missing at Alabama this year was a big target.
Mm-hmm. I think Mingo is not body type at all because he's the complete opposite body type of this player. But I think he's the Devin A-chain of wide receivers. Yeah. I think he has this killer landing spot where he could totally take over and be the guy, but he's a little raw. And so you're kind of fighting that instinct of, do I bet on this dude's potential or do I take guys who I saw play in college, who I love their route running? And he's really that mix. But I was starting to look at him. I totally understand, like, in a non-tight end premium, if you're shooting for the moon and you take him at pick 12, pick 13, I think Mingo screams like one QB. Watch this dude's going in the first round in a one QB league with non-tight end premium, like your OG dynasty leagues, one QB, non-tight end premium. He's going first round because there are just not enough good players, or not good players, but just like upside guys with capital, I think, to slingshot him in the ranks. So I like it. Pick 18, I'm going with someone that, he's in my heart, Cody. I got to say, I love this dude.
You love this guy.
I love this guy. And I feel bad that he's getting all this hate for all the stupid no ACL stuff. And I'm going Tajay Spears at pick 18. I just think it's the second round, like you said. Let's not overthink this. Tajay Spears is a very good player. And unless you are a first-round rookie running back, most people don't care what happens after the first 4 years of your career as a running back anyway. And so I just think we're overthinking it, right? He has the ceiling of Derrick Henry moving on and him taking over, but he has the floor of having an incredibly short career and being behind Henry for most of it. So I totally understand both sides of this coin. I just think if you're taking your shot and trying to hit on an RB1, this is one of the few guys that I think possesses that skill level. It's just there's a lot of risk involved.
But again, we're in the second round. So we're trying to find depth as well, right? So, I mean, you want to take those guys that might be that. And I think you have one in that. And, I mean, that's why I'm also taking, in a Superflex league at number 19, I'm taking Hendon Hooker. At this point, I probably either missed out on the top 4 or I have quarterbacks already and I just have incredible value that I might have a good trade bait in the future. He might take over for Jared Goff. We'll see how he plays this year, but this is I think it was a good landing spot for him because he can definitely sit and wait for a year and learn the system. We don't know if they're going to move on from Goff yet, but with them taking him on day 2, I think that's still a fact. Again, it's draft capital, and I'm trying to find another asset at this point. We do this every year. We have dynasty rookie drafts every year. I'm just trying to find the best value in the second and third and fourth rounds. So
Yeah.
I'm going to take the guys that I think had good landing spots.
Yeah,
Those
I'm with
are the
you.
ones I like.
I'm with you. There's obvious risk, right? He didn't get first round capital. He landed on a team where he's the backup. But if he takes over, the role is there. Like, the issue is we don't know if he's going to take over. But it's just, if you need a quarterback, you're set at all the positions. You don't love the guys around him. This is where he's going to go.
Yep.
This is where he's going to go, and you're going to have to take him if you want him. So pick 20. I'm actually gonna lay down one of my favorite picks of the draft and one of my favorite prospects, and I think it's a really good landing spot actually, and that's Jaden Reed, wide receiver going to Green Bay out of Michigan State. Number one, great route runner. I do still think Christian Watson is the better player, the better prospect, but we don't fully know that yet. And I think that's the key, right? I think Jaden Reed is going to be the number 2 there for sure. He's a great route runner. He's too good not to get on the field. But he has a 15, 20% chance to be the number 1 there. If we knew Rodgers fell in love with Watson by the end of the year, but let's not forget his struggles. And also Jordan Love is not Aaron Rodgers. Maybe Jordan Love wants someone who's going to move the chains and doesn't want a big play threat, And so I just think that is what could happen with Jaden Reed. And one more thing I want to note on Reed before we move on is that let's not forget that he at 18 dominated in college football. This wasn't one of these guys that it took till his senior year of college to play well. He played well his entire career. He was just stuck on a very
mediocre.
Mediocre quarterbacks, mediocre offensive system, mediocre offense. Big Ten, unless you're Ohio State, they're not producing a lot of wideouts necessarily that we think of. But some of them are coming from these programs that if you watched the player, they were good. Dotson from last year, great player. He was just stuck at Penn State.
Yep.
And
with
so
Sean Clifford, yep.
Yeah, who got drafted higher than I would have thought, but hats off to him. So
he might be older than Love, I don't know. And to wrap up Jaden Reed, it's just look how much younger that team got. I mean, and they lost depth with Cobb and Lazard leaving.
Mm-hmm.
So he's definitely going to be at least the wide receiver 3, and getting him in the second round of a rookie draft, that's what you want. So that's a great spot for him. And I think him, Dobbs, and Watson, they're all really young. So is Love, and now the tight ends are too. This team could be very good if they all stay healthy and they all stick around.
Yeah, I like the second round, man. If I'm able to move 2-1 for 2-5 and 2-10, that's a trade I'm making, because I think you really got to convince yourself into saying 2-1 is worth tons more than 2-5 in this class. So
exactly, yeah,
I like it. Pick 21.
Pick 21. I'm taking Chase Brown, and it's kind of for the same reasons as Kendre Miller. Is I was a big Chase Brown guy coming out of the draft, and he didn't get as high capital as I wanted, but we still don't know what is going to happen with Joe Mixon. So I'm going to take landing spot here, and we don't know what's going to happen with Joe Mixon and with Pirine moving on. I'm not going to trust in Travion Williams. I think is who they have behind him. So Chase Brown is going to get some playing time, I think, and I think he could produce again. We're going for value and going on landing spot, and I like that landing spot for him. So I would definitely, it might be a little early, but I'm willing to take him.
Yeah, I think you nailed that pretty well. I'm not a huge Chase Brown guy, and I do think it's probably early, but we're getting to the point where it's just if you want him at 211, 212, 210, just take him. Just take him, man. You're not getting a slam dunk prospect, and like you said, he has the upside of that landing spot really helping him produce. So if it all goes in his favor, he could 100% be a great asset at this point in the second round. So pick 22, I'm on the clock, and I'm going to a wideout that really helped his rookie draft stock. He obviously had good draft stock in the NFL, but it's Rashee Rice, wide receiver going to Patty Mahomes, right? I'm really surprised that Rice isn't flying up the draft boards, when in past years, man, like we will move freaking anyone up if they go to the Chiefs. And now all of a sudden they draft someone in the second round and we're like, I think we're just overcorrecting from Sky Moore last year, I think is what's happening. I think we're moving where it's like, God, Sky Moore really burnt everyone. And now Rice is coming in. But I think Rice is more going to play that Juju role, which is pretty wide open. I think Sky Moore and Tony are going to compete for a lot of the same touches. And then I think MVS is kind of just going to just run in a straight line and maybe get the ball, maybe not.
I mean, I think Justin Watson might beat out MVS too in that.
Yeah.
Too, so,
but I think Rice is a great stab. I love to add him as a, wide receiver 5, wide receiver 6, great guy to get in startups, great guy to get just to add onto your bench to see if it works out. So I don't want to say too much more about Rice, but I think he's a great guy at this point in the second round.
I agree. And with that pick 23, I'm taking Luke Musgrave. Again, this is tight end premium draft, so I'm going to take a high upside player here. Yes, we all know the injury concerns. Yes, they also took another tight end who is also injury prone. I think they both can produce because what's the one thing on the Green Bay Packers that they still have and still pretty vet worthy? It's the running backs. So they might be playing a lot of 2 tight end sets, and who's going to get those on play action? It's going to be the tight end. So I think they both can produce, and maybe, just maybe they both have had injury history in Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. So I'm going to take the better athlete in Luke Musgrave here and try to get Tucker Kraft maybe in the third to hedge my bet, because if he's only healthy for 8 games, Tucker Kraft's going to be healthy for the other 8 games. So I'm going to be happy with that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I was actually incredibly excited when I saw Musgrave go, because literally a day before the draft, I was like, that's my sleeper tight end. That's my boy. And then he went in the second round, and I was like pointing at my roommate who doesn't even watch freaking football. I was like, I told everyone that Musgrave was going to go the other day in the draft. But just like you said, man, and it's why I believed him from the start. If he stays healthy, he is a freak athlete, but he has to stay healthy. You got to add that in, but scoop up, get out your shovel, scoop up all the tight ends in round 2, because I'm with you. It's great value. So to cap off our 2-round Superflex rookie mock draft, pick 24, I'm going Marvin Mims. This is a slight change from my pre-draft rankings. There's a couple guys, honorable mentions, Josh Downs, I think, is one of them. I love Josh Downs, but just without the draft capital and already some of the concerns I already had, it's hard to put him up. But Mims, similar to Downs, I think they have a lot of similar traits. He's a little bigger, a little faster, but he got second-round capital to the Broncos, who, what have they been saying all offseason? I want to trade Jerry Jeudy. I want to trade Cortland Sutton. Like, they didn't successfully trade either one of them, but 1 year, 2 years from now, I don't think both of those players are on that team, or maybe even either, to be honest. There's a chance that neither one of those guys is there. And Marvin Mims could slide into an offense that we're hoping Sean Payton saves.
Yeah, and he might not be the most athletic guy, but he went to the perfect situation. I mean, Sean Payton has drafted guys in rookie drafts before where we're like, who is that guy? Or that's what I thought about, Marquise Colston at the time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He makes those guys produce.
Yeah.
And he's proven it time and time again. So, I mean, it's a great pick in the second round, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you do in the second round, right, man?
Yep.
Like, go for your studs, get the safety, get A-tier players. And in the second round, do not even care about the floor of a player. Just go get someone that could possibly blow up. So, just to rehash the second round of our draft real quick, we had Will Levis at 13, Devin Achane at 2-2, Sam Laporta, Kendre Miller, Jonathan Mingo, Tajay Spears, Hendon Hooker, Jaden Reed, Chase Brown, Rashee Rice, Luke Musgrave, and Marvin Mims. Cody, give us your takeaway just from doing this exercise. And as always, thanks for popping on, man. I love having just us two. I think we differ on just enough picks. It's a fun conversation. So what's your takeaway from this?
My takeaway is, man, the second round I might like a little bit more than the first, just because of just the value that I'm getting at the end of the second round as well. I mean, I still like a lot of the running backs still on the board too who didn't get the draft capital, but that's why round 3 and round 4 we have those in rookie drafts. And even if they get undrafted, I'm using my free agency dollars on because in dynasty leagues, it's pretty light, and I don't want any of the veterans on the waiver wire anyway. So I'm going to spend a lot of money on rookies that I want to throw on my taxi squad. But yeah, all those guys I would love to have on my team.
I think I'm with you, man. I think the more I think about it, I think I want to be a 110 and above, or if I'm 110 to like whatever, if you can trade back and pick up another second rounder, I do think that's the move. I don't know if I want to drop out of 112 to get a third rounder, a fourth rounder. I don't really care about those guys.
Yep.
I will, most of the time I stick by anything after about 2.7, 2.8. I usually don't care about. I might push that to 2.11, 2.12 this year just because I think it's a little deeper in the second. But yeah, I think I had a fun time, man. If you want to check out me at Where's Waldorf, Cody over there at Cody Feldon on Twitter. And we're going to be coming back soon with more shows. So I'm stoked that we got to do this. So, Cody, you have a good day, man. And thanks for coming on.
You too. No problem.